In this video, I would like to share with you how to create a brand new file with multiple images as a composite and use them as smart objects and the benefits of using smart objects. So let's say I've got these 4 files here which I would like to place in a singular file without really having to flatten anything in there and retain editing capabilities and whatnot. So the first thing I gotta ensure is that my color profile. So this is a ProPhoto profile. That's in Adobe. This is in Adobe. This is in Adobe. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use these 3 because I want to retain a certain level of consistency in terms of my color management. So once I know these are the files that I'll be working with, I go into Photoshop and go and create new. So choose a size that you may be working with. So I'm going to say 19 inches wide by 13 inches tall. And the orientation 19 inches wide is a landscape, so I've done that. 300 ppi, RGB colors, 16-bit files because my files are 16-bit. And remember what I was looking for, the color profile, so I have chosen the Adobe RGB profile for this brand new file that I'm creating. It's a blank canvas. Okay, so white is my background. And create. So this now becomes a simple canvas without anything in there for me to then work with. So all I'm doing is placing images in here. There are 2 different ways of doing this. They both work equally well. The choice is yours. So the first one, while you are in Photoshop, go to the File menu and simply say place linked or embedded. It's a choice that you make. The behavior will be very similar. So let's say I'm going to place embedded. We're going to look at all 3 of them though. The 2 over here and another option through bridge. So I say place embedded and I go choose the folder where I am supposed to be. So let's say this was not the file because this was ProPhoto RGB. This is in Adobe RGB and I hit place. Let's see what happens. So it looks at the image and brings it in Photoshop and by default places it right in the middle of the canvas. So now I have to scale it. So to scale it proportionately, there are multiple ways. If you notice while this image is placed and you see these hangers are there, at the top options menu, you have width and height. So make sure if you want to use this and you know exactly what percentage you wish to work with, that you click on this link so that when you modify the width, the height is relatively modified. For example, if I said 50, notice the height has also been modified to 50%, and I think 50% works quite okay. I'm going to move it over here, perhaps a little to the top, and then you see the check mark at the top where my cursor is. You can click on this and it'll apply, commit the transform, or you can hit the enter key on a PC or the return key on a Mac. Or you can simply bring your cursor somewhere in the middle, anywhere within this framework, and double click it. Eventually the double click seems to be the most efficient of the lot. Now, the other one was file, place, but this time we're going to place a linked file. So we come in here and we place the next file as a linked file. So let's see what the differences are. Again, it places it in the middle of the frame, so I've got to scale it down. So I'm manually doing it, and manually the way it works is that you keep your Alt Option and Shift key pressed and then grab any one of the corners and it will primarily allow you to scale it while retaining the center point over here. So I am going to place this image somewhere in here, but I want to reduce it a wee bit more so that I can place the other file in here. And I'll bring it up and then I apply. So I've got 2 images going. Now, before we proceed any further, see what is going on over here. I'll enlarge this and bring it in the middle. The first image that we placed has the smart icon link. Okay. The next image that we placed, this was an embedded file, and this is a linked file. So now here it shows a link, okay, as if it is linked. It is still a smart object, but the behavior is slightly different. They're both smart objects, except that this is a linked file, this is an embedded file. That's the difference. How does it influence you? Not really a whole lot, other than perhaps changing the file size. And now the third way of placing a file in Photoshop. So while this file is available to us and active, we then choose to go to Bridge. So here in Bridge, I have these files. So I've already got this file, I've already got the second file, and this is the file that I want to place in there. So I simply right click on it and go to Place, and then choose Photoshop. Please make sure when you're doing this that the file where you wish to place this image in is the active file, because you could potentially have multiple files open and you want to make sure that you place this image in the correct file. So I'm going to place this in Photoshop and let's see what it does. And there we go. So again, it has placed it, and I want to scale it down a little bit. So I want to match it somewhat reasonably to the other image that I have. And once I've done it, I can click on the check mark to apply this. And over here, you will notice that the tiny little icon is exactly the same as the first file where we said embedded file. Now, why use smart objects? Is there a purpose? Is there a benefit, or what it is? Smart objects are pretty cool. You can do changes, and then those change in the original file, and then those changes are reflected in this particular file, because all of these are layered files. Being layered files, I want to retain that control and the ability to go back and edit, because I don't really want to edit in here, because then I'll have to create masks and all of the above. So let's say I want to edit this file or do whatever that I want to. So I simply come to that particular layer and double click on the icon, the layer. As you double click on the icon, it starts to open up the original file. And here we go, it opens up the original file. So what do I want to do? I don't know. Whatever that you wish to, you make the changes. So let's say just for a moment, I'm gonna change this to a color image, just for a moment, okay? And see what happens and how it behaves. And there we go. So now I have changed it into a color image. All I have to do is save the file. So I go File, and I say Save. Please do not do Save As, because a Save As implies that you don't wish to save the original file, but you're saving a copy of the file. So there's really no need to save a copy of it, because all my edits are right here, and I can modify the edits as and where I wish to. Okay? So I click Save, and pay attention to the progress bar at the bottom left of the screen where my cursor is. You can, if you don't see the saving progress bar, you can click on the arrow over here and choose which option you wish to be displayed here. So while this is saving, I'm going to go click on the original file and see what happens here. So this was the file, right? Notice the cursor is now telling me that something is going on, and let's hope that it does it reasonably efficiently. Et voila. Now I have very successfully modified the image to color without really having had any influence on this original file. That is the whole point of having the ability to play with smart objects. That's about it. Hope this makes sense.